Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk about May and the, I'm not going to say crazy astrology because I think we've had a few years of everybody saying everything is crazy, but this is certainly a very activated month and one that I think you will want to take advantage of. The thing that is sticking out to me the most about May is that we have sequential houses lit up, which is to say, we just had this planetary parade in your Aries house, wherever that is. And now we will have a new moon in Taurus, and we are in Taurus season in the next house for you. On top of that, Uranus just moved into the next house for you in your Gemini house, and that is the season that we enter this month. So there's definitely something to be said for everything in your chart feeling ignited, and that feels a little you might feel a little burdened under that pressure, but now is definitely the time to take advantage of the astrology and to use it to your advantage. I don't want to sugarcoat everything so much. I know that we are in the middle of an escalating oil crisis. I know that the economy is in bad shape, and I know that it can be difficult to believe that you have the power to create anything in your own life right now, but the options are believe in it or don't. And as far as I'm concerned, I would rather believe in it until there's nothing to believe in anymore, because to me, that feels more productive. That being said, the month kicks off today with a full moon in Scorpio. When we're talking about full moons, we're talking about full 6-month cycles of releasing something in the applicable house. So, for Scorpio risings, this is in your first house. For Taurus risings, this is in your seventh house, etc. We will get to horoscopes at the end of this video. So, May is a loaded month. And when is it not a loaded month? Honestly, it starts out with this full moon in Scorpio. It ends with another full moon in Sagittarius, which is often called the blue moon phenomenon. That is where that name comes from. So it ends with a full moon in Sagittarius, and it's an important month for you to be as malleable as possible. Honestly, every day of your life is the most important thing is to be as malleable as possible. Um, with this month, we do want to write a little bit of magic. We want pen to paper. I say that both because of the grounding energy that Taurus appreciates and the writing energy that Gemini appreciates. And I think that a pen to paper, specifically a pen to paper, makes for a really magical manifesting experience. And like I said, collectively, we don't have much to lose. So you might as well go all in for the month of May. So the collective energy will be crazy, but there are some steps you can take to dig out from under the belly of this and to utilize the energy to the best of your ability. The first is the new moon in Taurus, which happens smack dab in the middle of the month. And Taurus with a new moon is very much about creating beauty in the world or doing things that make you feel good about your own life and your own comfortability. So with a new moon in Taurus, wherever your Taurus house is, which again, all of these Aries, Taurus, Gemini, it's all being lit up, right? Pretty consistently, and especially your Gemini house for the next 7 years. But this new moon in Taurus is going to add some sort of ebullient energy to your manifesting abilities. And you need to focus on the things that make you feel the best and that are the healthiest for you. I do think there's a sort of pervasive theme this month of not overindulging and not escaping too much into substance or alcohol abuse to try and counter the reality of what's happening around you. And especially if that's something that has been coming up for you more lately, I certainly would try to take this month to pour some water on that fire. So here's the TLDR for the month. Do everything you can to make your dreams come true. Expect nothing from anyone but yourself, and keep it all a secret to protect yourself from deflation or discouragement. Everyone has 3 sequential houses being lit up this month because there's a lot happening in Aries, there's a lot happening in Taurus, and there's a lot happening in Gemini. It's powerful, but you need to engage with it and it can't be avoided. I want you to be as detached as possible so that you can actually enjoy your life. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to stay so present in the moment that what is happening collectively is not continuing to drain your life force. Now, there is a huge exception to this rule, and that is if you are not participating in the willful resistance against the administration and the unnecessary war, et cetera, then you will not reap the benefits of the new period of time that we're entering. We are entering a more spiritually aware part of time. We are entering a period of time where authenticity will take you farther than anything artificial. We are entering a time where things are getting stripped down, including our basic necessities. We understand how much excess we've come to expect as our bare minimum, and we will start to care for the earth much more. Now, if you are somebody that does not know how to pivot in this world, I strongly suggest that you join my free Patreon and potentially take my Artist's Way, the Astro Way course. So, what that is 12 weeks of diving into each house of your chart so that you can learn how to be an unbridled creative force in the world and how to use your birth chart with each specific house and zodiac sign to create the life that you want. Astrology is a tool that is laid out for us and has been explained for thousands and thousands of years. And when you are dealing with something like a completely new world, which is what we are burgeoning into, you need new tools. And that's what the Artist's Way, the Astro Way can provide for you. Okay. So, now about this full moon that we have today. The full moon is in Scorpio today, and I keep looking to the side because I'm reading the post that I already posted on Patreon. The full moon in Scorpio is happening. It happened this morning, and it is obviously directly in opposition to the sun in Taurus. There's also a square happening to Pluto in Aquarius, so you should be prepared for rapid transformation. And now, especially that Uranus is in Gemini, we have to be prepared for news coming at us in an onslaught in the way that it has, and that has been overwhelming. But we kind of have to ground our energy so that we can continue to take it in, because it is important to continue to absorb information. It's important to continue to take action. And as I said, if you are not taking action towards bettering the collective, it doesn't matter what your individual astrology is, the hammer of karma will come and take care of it in a way that sort of forces you to change your perspective to being more inclusive and healing. So with the full moon in Scorpio, we are talking about the underbelly of things. We're talking about surgical precision. We're talking about vengeance. We're talking about death. We're talking about blind loyalty, even if it is ill-advised or misplaced. So with this full moon in Scorpio, especially if you are a fixed sign, Uranus has just moved out of Taurus and into Gemini. So you are starting to feel some relief, but this is where we're tying a ribbon on something, and you just need to go with the flow as much as you can. For everyone, you may be experiencing a lot of friendships coming to an end, a lot of partnerships coming to an end. You might realize that you simply cannot sustain this soul sucking job anymore because you are having, this is largely brought on by Pluto and Aquarius, which is especially relevant to people living stateside because America is going through her Pluto return. And in many schools of astrology, we don't even count planets that are that far outside of Saturn. But it's not an easy time to live through. It is certainly something that we have to navigate through grounding our own energy as much as possible and being connected with the collective as much as possible and our communities. So, despite not living through an easy period of time, it's hard to deny that there is some exciting energy around for the individual. And I'm sure a lot of us, especially fixed signs, are starting to notice little ways in which like our life is getting easier, which feels and sounds a bit crazy, but that is sort of the rub of it. There are lots of us who have had a very tumultuous 7 to 14 years and are now entering um a good period, a good air quote period of time, and it's almost an even exchange. It's almost going to be an even exchange of people that are moving from like the best period of their life to maybe the most tumultuous and vice versa. So if you're here, I have to believe that you've been pretty with it for the last 7 to 14 years, and you probably have also had a difficult time. So I really believe for the Hinduitive Collective that things are going to get better. And part of the full moon in Scorpio and this month is remembering that I can actually control my reality, because I can, no matter what, dictate how I react to everything that happens, right? So, full moons are perfect for releasing your energy into the world. And Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So, you will always catch me saying all the time, but especially for Mars ruled periods of time, working out, um, hooking up responsibly, and like releasing or getting your energy out in Mars ways, like with a fire ritual. Those are going to be really, really effective for this next period of time, like let's say 4 weeks. So here are the horoscopes for the month. And basically, what we're covering is how this full moon is affecting you, where Uranus has just settled in for you, and what just was lit on fire for you by the planetary parade in your Aries house, and how now you are going to apply that for the next 6 months of your life. Okay, so let's go. Aries. This is happening in your eighth house of debt, transformation, and intimacy. You have to start being radically honest about what you're giving versus what you're getting. There could be a little button on a financial situation that had you stressed out and maybe had you indebted to someone else, or um, allows you to see a return on money that you loaned out or gave to someone else, perhaps without the expectation of getting it back. You could also right now reach new levels of intimacy with a partner. You could discover new levels of intimacy with yourself. You might discover something that you're into. You're also experiencing Chiron and Mercury hanging out in your first house. So Chiron is the wounded healer. Mercury is the planet of communication, our day to day, and your first house is yourself and your identity. So your deepest wound is being talked about and triggered at the moment. And that is something to keep in mind for sure. Outside of that, the new moon in the middle of the month will be in your second house of money and possessions, and a new moon in Taurus. Something that is really significant about your chart as an Aries rising is that every house is ruled by its actual owner. So Taurus naturally falls into the second house. And in your chart, what I mean is each placement for an Aries rising is the most powerful it can be. So for the new moon in the second house, if you have major Aries placements and you do not manifest around money, you're missing a really, really big opportunity. And I don't want to put a ton of pressure on people this month, but if you can kind of take your time and write down what you want over the course of your month, you really run the risk really of getting what it is that you ask for. So be very deliberate and careful when you are asking for something. Outside of that, Aries rising, Uranus is hanging out in your third house of communication and siblings. This is a 7-year transit that you will feel begin to get activated this month. And so there will be some kind of surprises or sudden movement in that house. So this could be like a sudden change in your commute. In the same way that before COVID, we were all working in the office all the time, and then it really switched to a working from home environment. There's some kind of change like that will happen, like another adjustment for you. The other thing about the third house with Uranus is that it could be uh, a little bit of a surprise announcement with a sibling, you might, need to mind your tongue as it relates to conflicts with your siblings. Taurus, rising, sun, or moon. This is happening in your seventh house of marriage, long term partnerships, and hidden enemies. If you have been putting off a tough conversation with somebody, especially a business partner or a spouse or somebody that you are planning on spending the majority of your life with, chances are that conversation will come to the surface soon. Your 12th house is the one that is still highlighted from this planetary parade in Aries. And the 12th house, when we're looking at astrology, is sort of what you're bringing in from your past life or an old life into the new one. Obviously, from a Hindu perspective, we consider that to be like life to life, but I do believe that people live several lives within one. So it really depends on your school of belief. But with this 12th house still sort of having these burning embers in it, you really want to be mindful of how you're spending your energy. You also really want to be really very mindful around sleep and the kind of sleep that you're getting. I wear a Whoop that tracks my health data, not an ideal thing to do in the year of our Lord 2026. However, it is not an American company. And I find it really useful because they are so good at tracking your rest and recovery. And so I am loving seeing it and knowing when I should be taking a little bit more rest. I love seeing how good my sleep is, how bad my sleep is. So you might be interested in finding something that is safe and isn't sort of steeped in like fascism. Me whispering on YouTube Live, but you can probably find something that can help you track that yourself. Also, if you bleed, like you might start tracking your cycle yourself, just so you can learn more about your rest cycles. And Taurus, that's going to be really important for you because rest is a big, big part of what makes you tick. You need deep naps, deep rest, a really like comfortable bed. That is a non-negotiable for you. So definitely because that sort of took a beating this last month, you want to pay attention to your sleep cycles and what is coming up for you in terms of like, oh, this feels like my life's purpose. Um, the other thing about the 12th house is that you definitely need to be employing some kind of daily devotion or ritual. You need to be um, the same way that you have to sleep every day, you have to be in devotion to something every day. It's just you're not going to find much meaning in your life without it. And because you are a fixed sign, you can be really stubborn about getting into it. But the only person that you're hurting by not exploring things like that is you. Um, Outside of that, it's definitely time to draw some pretty intense spiritual boundaries for yourself. You might also kind of be more intrigued by the other side or the occult, and you might, develop a belief in that or start questioning your belief around that. Also, the new moon is going to be in your first house of self identity and expression. So if you have been thinking about maybe trying out a new look or you have a new way that you want to express yourself, those are the seeds to plant this month. But if you can keep it cute with money and with health, this month really could be and will be the catalyst to something much bigger or the second act of your life, so to speak. But you have to put some effort in. With a Taurus rising, you can be a little bit lazy, for lack of a better. All the fixed signs can be. Not Scorpio as much, but still, you gotta move this month, and it can be especially easy in your birthday season to sort of overindulge. Just wait. Just try to be a green light this month, and then you'll get to chill soon. All right, Gemini rising. You're having some kind of revelation around your daily routine, health, or your pets because the full moon is hanging out in your sixth house. It might be a good time to shed habits that are inhibiting your health. It's certainly a good time to shed vices that are slowing you down or that are starting to make you a little bit worried about your health. Gemini, your mind moves quite quickly. and almost like double as fast, right? Because you have twin energy in your psyche and that rules your chart. So don't do a double take on a health thing that is coming up for you. Don't make someone have to come and tell you again to fix your health this month. Just do it and do it right the first time. So, the full moon in Scorpio is quite serious health wise. So, I definitely want you to fight impulsivity this month. And if anything comes up for you as it relates to your health, off to the doctor you go. This is not the weekend to try a crazy new drug or to binge drink. You really, really want to be careful. Please be careful behind the wheels of cars. Be responsible in your partying. Geminis, you guys are the life of the party, your social butterflies. So you can mask a lot of what you're doing, a lot of the sort of bad habits you've picked up, but you will have to pay for it twice. So just be mindful this month and take care of yourself. Without a vessel, like without a physical body, your dream dies, right? It doesn't matter what else you do. So the Taurus moon, new moon is also going to be lighting up um, your 12th house of past life karma, spiritual transformation, rest. And so you might find that even though we're moving into your birthday season, you might find that you're feeling actually more subdued than normal. You're not as inclined to socialize. Follow that instinct because um, if I have learned anything about when our body is telling us to slow down, it is that it is right and it is the instinct to follow. Uranus is also going to be in your first house for the next 7 years. So, the person that you are now will not be the person that you are at the end of 7 years. This is going to be a period of like almost a coming out of this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is my legacy. And because it's Gemini energy, there's something about it that's a little bit like, "Oh, you didn't hear me the first time. Let me tell you again." Okay, so that's why taking care of your health right now is of the utmost importance because without it, the next 7 years don't really matter. And you don't want to start a cycle of bad health in this month where we have all this action. You want to be as like crunchy and granola as you can be this month so that you can really take advantage of Uranus in the first house for the next 7 years. All right, Cancer rising. I'm going to start just reading these. So, Cancer rising, the full moon is lighting up your fifth house of creativity, children, and dating. It might be time for you to release the need to be recognized. It could be like you have to let something shake out, something that recognition that you've been waiting for. You might just need to bide your time and allow it to come to you. um you will get your credit eventually. Aries, the planetary parade was burning to death your 10th house of career and reputation, so you've probably undergone a lot of change in that regard. It can be easy for you to lead with your heart instead of your head, and you can't. You have to kind of get into like the detached state of mind for it, and not think too emotionally about the decisions that you need to make. You may also decide that you can't go to a job every day that is starving you creatively. Impulsivity won't help you this month, but quick thinking can. And the way to get better at quick thinking is by sharpening your intuition. And the way to sharpen your intuition is to slow down and to meditate. So the new moon is going to be igniting your 11th house of networks, long term desires, and friends. And Jupiter, I haven't mentioned Jupiter for other people, but for you, it matters because Jupiter is in its exaltation in your sign, in your first house until June 30th. So for the next 8 weeks, you have this period of time that won't come around for another 12 years at least, where Jupiter, the planet of good luck, philosophy, and fortune, is in your first house. So it is so important that you lead with confidence, that you pitch the things that you want to pitch, that you don't let your emotions get the better of you when you're manifesting something, and that you believe in yourself, even if you are kind of faking it this month. Leo, this full moon is happening in your fourth house. You are focused on what you're made of, where you come from, what your foundations are. You're having sort of an aha moment around um, either a revelation in your home or your literal like self, your literal foundation. So your ninth house is where Mars is still hanging out. That's where this Aries thing was just happening for you. So you might feel that in order to build a better foundation for yourself, you need to go back to school or travel somewhere or learn something. The new moon in Taurus is going to be lighting up your 10th house of career and vocation. So something will probably get set into motion this month, and it's a very, very good month for Leo risings to make a debut of some kind, to release like a course you've been working on. I highly recommend the new moon in Taurus as being that day, or like a new music video, that kind of thing. And Uranus is hanging out in your 11th house for the next 7 years of networking, friends, and long term desires. So even though you have a natural inclination to be out in the spotlight, it may have felt harder in these last 7 years when Uranus was in Taurus. It was just a little encroaching, but now it's kind of time to get back to your Leo essence, to be in the spotlight, to be comfortable with the spotlight, and to put your creative energy and work into the spotlight. Virgo, rising sun and moon. This is the full moon in Scorpio is in your third house of community and communication. You are being asked to allow transformation. You may get some disappointing news around siblings or communities. It's just really important that you take it in stride, because this month also has a new moon in Taurus that is lighting up your ninth house of philosophy, higher education, and foreign travel. So although you are naturally patient, like you're willing to work long term on something, um, this month it might be like about staying as present as possible and not worrying too much about long term. Also, Uranus is in your 10th house of career for the next 7 years. So what you plant while being present this month will ultimately be for your long-term benefit. I just don't want you to think so much about the long-term benefit. I just want you to do what feels right in the day and trust that it is leading to long-term payoff. So you may this month you may have an easier time paying debts off. You may find really good deals. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to find good deals on flights, but you may. Who knows? You create your reality. And I know that for you guys, it is kind of crazy making when stuff is not going according to the plan. But the more tightly you grip the steering wheel, the less control you're actually going to have. And so 2026 is really not a joke for anyone. And we are sort of all collectively coming to terms with what the new reality is. But if anyone can prepare themselves for a long term pivot, it is you, Virgo. All right. Libra, rising, sun, and moon. This month is activating the top half of your chart and your second house of money. So basically, you may be looking to burn everything all the way down, and with the right impulse control, that may be the best decision for you. Your seventh house of long term partnerships was just incinerated by Aries season and the planetary parade that was there. The new moon in Taurus will be helping you come up with new ideas to get out of debt, or you may need like an evolution in your intimacy. Be careful, because this can look like if you're trying to get over a heartbreak or move past something that has traumatized you, you may dive very deep into the sauce, so to speak. Like you may be smoking a lot, drinking a lot, and this is just not really a period of time to mess with your health. Even just from a practical standpoint, you I think it's a good time to stay as healthy as possible, because the systems that we are supposed to be able to rely on right now are not reliable. And so do what you can to not have to go to the doctor, to not have to don't incur any unnecessary debt, etc. It just is a month, and this can be a little hard for Libras, it's a month to be excessively responsible and to get your flighty energy sort of grounded down. So, um, a new 7-year cycle is starting for you in your ninth house of foreign lands, philosophy, and higher education. So you may feel the need to expand your horizons a bit. Again, you want to do that safely in a way that is safe. And you need to learn a little bit more about what it is that you want to do before you do it. This month honestly feels a little bit manic in terms of Libra energy. I use that word not at all lightly. But even in my experience, I have tons and tons of Libras in my life, and there is just a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of sort of like victim mentality that Libras are moving out of, and it's really, really uncomfortable. But that is the way it's supposed to go. And this ninth house for the next 7 years is saying there is something bigger and better and more divine for you. There is a philosophy for you to sort of commit to. And if you don't start now looking for it, then you're asking for disruption in the house of philosophy. So you will, instead of sort of figuring out what it is that you like, you will be confronted with a lot of like what you don't believe anymore. So you want to get ahead of that as much as you can. And if you can ground your energy this month and really plan for your future to the degree that you can, you will be much, much better off as we move into this next period of time. All right, Scorpio, rising sun and moon. The month begins with a full moon in your first house of self and identity. You're learning a truth about yourself that may initially feel disappointing, but can lead to transformation and a rebirth if you can take it in stride. You are a fixed sign, so you are a bit unmoving. But this month you don't really have a choice. You have to go with the flow. And the new moon in the middle of the month is in your seventh house of long-term partnerships, like marriage or business partnerships. It's also hidden enemies, so there may be some illumination over a truth there. But also you have probably experienced upheavals in your seventh house over the last 7 years because that's where Uranus was. So if your marriage is looking very different now, if a long-term business deal is sort of falling through, or you don't really have reliable partners in business anymore, just know that Uranus has moved out of that. So you will start to feel some relief around partnerships. And that's why it is a great month for you to utilize the new moon energy, because it's sort of the first tool you can dig in the soil in there for a long, and that you have been able to use to dig in there for a long time. So you definitely want to take advantage of that, especially if you are a Scorpio rising looking for partnership. So now Uranus has moved to your eighth house of debt, intimacy, and shared resources. So you may find a partner that all of a sudden brings you financial gains or losses. That is something to be aware of. Make sure you're having open and honest conversations with your partner about your finances. Your You also may incur some surprise, like angel investors in your life. Somebody might say, "Hey, Yam, I love Hinduitive. Here's $250,000 to do what you want with it." I am a Scorpio rising actually in Vedic, but anyway, that's something to look forward to. And also your sixth house of pets. Sixth house is like the workplace, as in your relationships to people at work. It's kind of water cooler energy, and it's pets. It's also health and daily routine. And you can imagine how like this humdrum of seeing the same people standing at the same water cooler every day can start to take a toll on your health. And so you might have had some revelations around like, oh, I cannot do this. This can't be my day to day. I've got to revamp my daily routine. Um, and so that is something to really pay attention to. You may also, speaking of long-term relationships in your life, now that this Aries energy has come down in your sixth house, you may decide it's time to get a pet or to build a relationship with an animal that way. All right, Sagittarius rising. Sag, it is so hard to be a chronically optimistic person, and you have really been for the last 7 years, despite the hammering down of every possible obstacle on you. But you are about to be proven right in a lot of ways. You're about to feel good about having held out. This is a month of a lot of new chapters. Your moral clarity and your spiritual health are undergoing an illumination under the full moon in Scorpio. You're realizing more and more that the morality of something means more to you than the money or the material aspect of it. Still, we need money to survive, right? And that is something that you probably have had an up and down relationship with over the last 7 years. But now, as we move into May, the new moon in Taurus is in your sixth house of pets, daily routine, and health. And I think that this is probably suggesting that by taking care of your health day by day, including your mental health, you are going to, the clouds are sort of starting to split and you're starting to see a blue sky for the first time in a long time. So Uranus has left that house of daily routine and has now entered your seventh house of partnership and marriage. Now, what it makes me especially enthusiastic about this for Sagittarius risings is that Sagittarius risings are quite impulsive as it is. They cannot be tied down. So Uranus is actually, and they're mutable. So Uranus actually brings energy in Gemini that Sagittarius can work with really well. And that is the kind of surprise that Sagittarius can handle. Not everybody could meet someone very quickly and not feel overwhelmed by that prospect, but if you're a Sag rising, it's very likely that in your daily routine that sort of got burnt to a crisp, and now the focus is supposed to be sudden upheaval and change in your seventh house of marriage and partnership. So if that's what you're looking for, I would be very, very encouraged about this month. But like I'm telling everybody, I would play it close to the vest. Don't tell people what you're going for or what you want. Because it sort of automatically adds their energy to it. You can talk about it once you have it. Capricorn, this month opens up with a light on your 11th house of networks, friends, and long term desires. What can you let go of and transform for the sake of accomplishing what it is that you really want, like what little you wanted? The new moon in Taurus will add some magic to your fifth house of creativity, children, and dating. So, if there's a long term dream that you've been itching to release, Uranus has just settled into your house of daily routine. So you got to shake it up and adjust your routine to accommodate that dream. You're definitely not a stranger to the hustle of things, and you're better than a lot of the other signs at that hustle. So it may mean you're waking up earlier or going to bed later, but if it's for your dream, it's worth it. Your fourth house of ancestry and foundations is still hot to the touch from Aries' recent planetary parade, but there's something that you need to think about in terms of your dreams and where you come from, or the boundaries that you need to draw to sort of have a more emotionally fulfilled life. You can be a little bit detached and cold, and like you can sort of move away from like the magic of life sometimes. And so you need to thaw a little bit and allow yourself to have day to day emotional interactions. And Aquarius, rising sun and moon. This is the month is opening up with your 10th house of career and reputation being lit up, and it's starting a 6-month cycle of releasing. Pluto is also in Aquarius, so you are experiencing quite a bit of transition and transformation, really, I should say. Do you feel that you're satisfied in your job right now, or do you kind of think it's time to pull the rug out from under yourself? If you're feeling that, it's not very surprising. Your third house of community and siblings was just razed to the ground by the stellium we just had in Aries, and Saturn is staying there until 2028. So you still have to draw boundaries there very firmly and very confidently. The new moon in Taurus imbues you with some hope as it relates to home. You're realizing more and more that your family are the people that you choose and not necessarily the people that you were born with. You also might have some curiosity about your roots. You may find your own way to sort of identify with where you come from. Remember also that your own family could grow in surprising ways because Uranus just moved to your fifth house of kids, creativity, and dating, where it will stay until 2033. So you are building your own little weird world, but you have to be patient. And unfortunately for you, Aquarius, you have to be disciplined because Saturn rules your chart, and Saturn does not care about your inability to be disciplined. Saturn's point is that you were given that sort of imposition to overcome it, to understand that you are bigger than it. So, the more regimented you can make your routine, the better off you will be. And you have to find a way to make your authenticity fit into structures that already exist. You are supposed to be playing the game from the inside. That is where you will enact real change. Finally, Pisces, rising sun and moon this month starts by bringing attention to what you believe in, things that you want to learn, and possibly lands that you want to travel to, because this moon is in your ninth house. Um, what do you need to let go of that might be an old relief that is not, I mean, an old belief that is not really letting you um move into this like new version of yourself? It can be a little bit daunting to explore your own biases and shortcomings, but this month starts with the opportunity to look at it clearly and to take action towards getting what you want. You can be a bit hard to nail down and or to get an idea through to. Sometimes talking to a Pisces placement is you you just said it, and then they just kind of like, it's when someone is like, "Yeah, sure," and you're like, "Did you hear me?" That's very, very, Pisces energy. So this month, as much as you can, you kind of wanna tamp that down and ground yourself. So with the new moon in Taurus, because you are also ruled by Venus, this will be a powerful new moon for you to utilize and work on. And I really suggest getting your feet onto earth, having some kind of yoga practice, meditating. But grounding is going to be really, really important for you to get that restless energy out. The new moon is happening in your third house of community and siblings. So there may be something beautiful for you to create with friends and family. Um, Aries also has just left your second house of money. I mean, Aries is always your second house of money, but there were all these planets in your second house. And now what's lingering there is Chiron, Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune. And so there's still a lot of discipline to have to build around your finances, and a lot of self um sort of self editing that you need to do around what you believe about money and how much money you're supposed to have, or how that money has to come to you. So, with your second house having just been lit up by that planetary parade and the new moon being in your third house of community, that leads us to where Uranus has settled for you for the next 7 years. And that's in your fourth house of homes and foundations. So, Uranus in the fourth house can bring some slightly unexpected news as it relates to somewhere you live or ancestry, or something that is very foundational to you. But you Pisces can be a bit amorphous, and you have to like sort of utilize that energy to go with the flow of any familial news that you might receive. And 7 years is a long time, to have a planet in something. So the more that you can learn how to strengthen the bow, so to speak, so that it doesn't break, the better off you will be. But for Pisces risings, you guys definitely have to sort through your emotions and be able to discern for yourself what is right. You have to be able to work through the illusion of your sign. Pisces placements are almost always underwater in a way. So you got to get yourself up, get some air, and take some action on land. Okay, that is it. Again, if you liked these horoscopes, I just read them from the horoscope. I wrote them. They take me hours to write, and I wrote them and released them on Patreon. I do very short horoscopes on Instagram, full extended ones on Patreon, and am here to read those horoscopes to the people that don't want to read for themselves. So I think that is it from me. As you can see, almost every house is lit up for everybody in some way. And we've just been kind of living through that period of time. And so, you can imagine what it looks like for the collective. It's certainly going to be an action packed month. My best advice is to take things in stride, to work fervently towards what it is that you want without thinking too much about it. For example, for me, that looks a little bit like I'm going to get on, whether I have 0 people watching or 100 people watching. I am going to be consistent for the sake of what I know my business can grow into, and for the sake of my seva or service to the community. So if you work really, really hard this month and kind of keep your head down, by June, you're really going to be, you're going to be ready to enjoy the summer and to be out, and you will have laid a lot in place that will make the second half of your year amazing. I know that it is so crazy out there. Again, if you are looking for guidance, I strongly encourage you to look at the Artist's Way, the Astro Way. There are several tiers of it. You can join a cohort and meet with us as a group every week or every other week, or you can have one-on-one attention from me for 12 weeks, and we will work through every single placement in your chart and manifest the crap out of everything that you want. But if that is not what you're feeling right now, subscribe to this YouTube, like the video, it really helps, or join my Patreon to get more exclusive content. And above all, let's just do our best. Bye.